Hi, I'm Tad Rudzinski, speaker, educator, and expert in corporate responsibility and sustainable product design. Thank you for joining us today. We're starting our January series, which is on formulating the framework, designing your corporate responsibility program. Today we're going to be talking about going from assessment to action. We've done a lot of work in the previous blogs and webinars, really building up your analysis system, evaluating your operations, evaluating your company, evaluating and understanding your stakeholders. So today we want to talk about how we're going to take that, help you prioritize, help you establish goals, and then help you implement these activities into an overall sustainability strategy. So think about it. If you been following the previous blogs and webinars, we've talked about benchmarking, evaluating your operations, understanding your environmental, economic, and social impact of your organization. Most of you should have performed a sustainability assessment by now, where you not only look at the benchmarking data, but you also then take a hard look at your operations, looking at your business, understanding your organization overall. And in a sustainability assessment, not only are you understanding your benchmarking data, but you're also getting a good idea of what the opportunities are for performance improvement, really understanding the impacts of your organization, and then looking for initiatives that you could bring in as part of your sustainability strategy to integrate into an implementation plan that will help you reduce costs, help you build your brand, help you improve your competitive advantage, different things like that. The sustainability assessment is really a very key piece of your overall assessment. You should have also conducted questionnaires and evaluations with your primary stakeholders. That could be your employees, it could be your customers, it could be your investors. All kinds of different folks are in your stakeholder group. If you recall from the previous blogs, we've really talked about who the stakeholders are and identifying those key stakeholders in order to do an effective materiality assessment. So once you have this information, it's a huge amount of info, because you're going to be having benchmarking data, you're going to have all your sustainability assessment data, you've got all your input from your stakeholders. Now it's time to sit down and really evaluate that. So you go through this data, you assemble it into a format that you can really look at and understand, and then help you understand what direction you want to either, if you're developing a sustainability program, how you want to go forward with developing that, or if you have a sustainability program that's maturing, how you're going to advance your goals, how you're going to really take the next step to integrate sustainability into your culture and really get your opportunity to grow your business and use sustainability as a business strategy to really expand and improve your operations. So based on that data analysis, one way you can assess this is through creating a materiality matrix. We talked about that in last month's blog and webinar, and a materiality matrix is just a really good visual way to understand where the impacts are, what the opportunities are, what is important and of concern to your stakeholders, and what's most critical to your organization. And I have an example of that coming up. We'll talk more about that. But it's really important also now, so you've got all this information, you've got your materiality matrix. How do you prioritize these items that you've identified? Number one that we always look at is cost savings, and can it generate revenue? Is an opportunity something that's going to save you money, contribute to your bottom line, or is it something that's going to help you grow revenue in your company? Whether it's through innovation or improving products or whatever, there's different things you have to look at. Next thing we consider is customer and employee satisfaction as a means of prioritizing. Your customers are really important, depending on your type of organization. Just about every organization has some type of customers, whether you're selling products, services, you're a nonprofit, whatever you do, you're going to have some type of customers that you're dealing with. Looking at your employees also, most companies really rely on people to succeed. So understanding what's really important to these folks in helping you prioritize and establish your focus and goals is going to be really important. Also considering your brand and reputation. There's a lot of big companies out in the world right now that are really concerned about their brand, and they basically exist because their brand is recognized. Their reputation is also very important. And, these giant companies have these issues where if someone understands or finds out they're doing something that's not really in line with people's values, or from a sustainability perspective, maybe they are a company that's, having clothing manufactured in Bangladesh, and you have a big accident like recently happened, suddenly that company's reputation is at risk. So part of this whole prioritization thing is understanding what could be a risk to your brand and what could be a risk to your reputation, and putting those aspects high on the list as far as selecting your focus and goals. Another critical thing to think about in prioritization is innovation. If you're going to be establishing new products, new services, for example, we're going to be talking about Ford in a minute. When we see what they're doing, they're really looking at sustainable mobility. And what does that mean? It's not just cars anymore. There's the population in the world is growing. There's a lot more automobiles out there. So from an innovation perspective, they have to think about what's the next means of mobility. Is it going to be electrification? Is it going to be mass transit? It may not just be automobiles. Another important aspect is how to monitor what's going on in the market. So looking at what's going on in the out in the marketplace, what's going on, what are the trends, is there big weather events, is there different issues that are happening, is there political unrest in a certain country that could affect your goals. By monitoring these things, it's really important to be able to adapt your goals, adapt your focus as the market changes. So really important to watch that. And the next step also in prioritization is understanding, after you've selected your key goals, can you invest and can you get your people to engage? Do you have the resources, the time, the people, the money to do these different things you want to do? And that's all part of your strategy. So you have a good handle on what the opportunities are, the areas you need to focus, but you also have to be realistic. What can you really do as an organization? So that investment and engagement aspect is really critical when you're thinking about establishing these goals. So here's an example of how Ford has established their materiality matrix. As you can see in this diagram, there's some boxes here that are very deep purple, which talks about high impact and high concern. But then there's also boxes to the left and right and bottom of that are another shade of purple. And those are also important. But what's really interesting about the way Ford did this is they looked at what was important and of concern to their stakeholders and what was important to them as an organization across the bottom. And that whole grouping of boxes you see there all have different goals that connect to that and different focus areas. But the neat thing about it is these all feed into each other. So in the area of high impact and high concern, Ford basically is focusing on climate change. And if you look at the strategies they're adopting and they're going after, low carbon strategy they have, figuring out what they can do as an organization. And think about Ford Motor Company, huge impact for manufacturing their product, but extremely huge impact from product use. Every one of us who drives, we're releasing carbon, we're creating all kinds of other emissions from driving the vehicle. There's fluids, there's impact to the roadways, there's effects on stormwater. It's just a huge amount of impact. So carbon by far is the largest impact of driving. And Ford has come up with this strategy around low carbon activity, whether it's in their automobiles or in their operations. And you can see here they're also looking at vehicle greenhouse gas emissions. They're concerned about fuel economy, and then electrification strategy. Think about it. If we can get electrified cars that can take us the same range as a gasoline automobile, and we have the infrastructure to charge these vehicles, suddenly the carbon footprint goes down tremendously, especially if we're charging these vehicles using renewable energy. The other things they're focused on, and there's a whole myriad of, I think they have 14 points in that area. Ford Financial Health is important to them. That's a area of high concern. And they're looking at product competitiveness. They're also looking at risk and cost management. And then Ford future competitiveness is built around sustainability, mobility. Like I said earlier, they're really concerned about how are people going to move, how are they going to transport themselves, goods and services. And they're looking at not only the present, but the future. And that's what innovation is all about. And that's a key business strategy you need to build into your sustainability activities is what's happening now, where are we going in the future, and how are we going to meet these demands of the future. So the next thing we really want to do is, now you've done your sustainability matrix, now you establish your goals. If you remember, we've talked about sample sustainability goals in several other blogs and webinars, and I strongly encourage every organization to focus on reducing energy and reducing their carbon footprint. These are sample goals. Again, every one of you is going to have different goals you establish for your organization. You know, it could be reducing packaging, training people, improving your efficiency of your fleet, basically, you know, increasing stakeholder engagement. There's a lot of different things you could focus on, and these goals will then set the next step in the process in how we implement. And we're going to be talking about that in the next blog, and we're also going to be talking about that in our next webinar, which is coming up on Tuesday, January 28th, where we're going to take a deeper dive into these video topics. We get to discuss different aspects, and as you've seen in many of the webinars you've attended, it gives you the ability to ask questions, and those questions have been really great in formulating the way we respond to all of you. We develop these topics and we provide information that all of you need. So please continue to subscribe to my blog, to get my emails. Also, keep providing comments. It's really important for you to keep giving us the feedback. I look forward to seeing you on the next blog series and then on the webinar on January 28th. So thank you all for joining, and I hope you have a great and prosperous new year and sustainable new year. Thank you.